When I first started playing Minecraft, I think I was around 7 or 8 years old, and looking back on it now, it's kind of crazy how different the game felt back then compared to how it feels now. Not just in terms of updates or graphics, but in the way it made you feel while you were playing it. Since early Minecraft didn't really explain anything to you, you didn't get a tutorial or any objectives, and you didn't get any lore. You were kind of just dropped into this massive world completely alone and told without being told to kind of figure it out yourself. And when you're that young and you're playing a game like that, your imagination does a lot of the work for you. Every weird noise or lighting glitch or like strange chunk of terrain or world glitches felt like super important, like it actually meant something. Minecraft wasn't just a sandbox, but it kind of felt like a place where something could go wrong at any moment. And that's why Minecraft myths existed in the first place. Not because people were dumb or easily fooled, but because the game gave you just enough information to make your brain fill in the gaps. And sometimes the things your brain comes up with are scarier than anything the game could ever actually show you. Herobrine is one of those things where even if you say you never believed in him, there's a very good chance you still check behind you at least once or twice. Like you hesitated. You looked a little longer at the fog than you probably needed to. And that alone says a lot about how powerful this myth actually was. Because when you really think about it, Herobrine wasn't scary in the traditional sense. He didn't have any jump scares or a sound cue. He didn't even have a clear set of rules. And that's exactly why he works so well. Back then, Minecraft already felt pretty empty in a way that's hard to describe if you never played the earlier versions. Not empty as in boring, but empty as in quiet and lonely. Like you could walk for minutes at a time without seeing anything except trees and hills, and most of the time there'd be no music playing. It would be just footsteps and the occasional cave sound that was completely uncalled for and I hated and it scared me so bad. But anyways, when people started saying there was something else in your world, something that looked like you, but it wasn't hostile, but it also wasn't friendly, it didn't really feel all that ridiculous. It almost felt like an explanation for the emptiness, if that makes sense. And I remember watching those old Herobrine videos where literally nothing would happen, like genuinely nothing. The player would just be walking around, occasionally stopping and zooming in on the fog, and like they would get quiet. And somehow that made it so much worse. Because your brain starts doing the work for the video, and you start thinking like, okay, what if something actually does appear? Then you'd go into your own world, and suddenly you're noticing things you've never noticed before. Trees that would look slightly off, or caves that felt too straight, or a shadow that would disappear when you would look at it. And even if you knew it was probably nothing, there was always that tiny part of your brain that said like, yeah, but what if? And I think the funniest part looking back on it is how serious people were about it. Like there were full-on investigations, people were recreating seeds, comparing screenshots, like analyzing fog distance. It wasn't just a creepypasta, it was genuinely a community-wide obsession. And Mojang absolutely knew what they were doing. They kept putting removed Herobrine in the patch notes, because every single time they did that, it reignited the conversation. Like, was it a joke, or confirmation, or just to mess with people? Nobody really knew, and that uncertainty kept the myth alive way longer than it should have been. Even now, years later, Herobrine still feels like he belongs to Minecraft in a way that no other myth on this list does. Not because he was real, but because of how people remember being genuinely scared of him at some point, and that shared memory kind of makes him immortal. You know what's funny though? I don't even remember the first time I heard about Herobrine. I just remember a point where he already existed. Like there was never a moment where someone sat me down and explained it. He was just already a part of Minecraft in my head. And that's kind of crazy because how many things can you say that about? Most creepypastas you hear the story first. With Herobrine, it felt like you learned about him in the same way you learned about like gravity in the game. Just through like experience. I also remember how quiet people would get when you talked about him. Even in comment sections, someone would say, like, I saw Herobrine. And instead of everyone laughing and being like, no you didn't, bro. People would reply with stuff like, what version? Or, was it nighttime? Like, we were all pretending it was a real investigation. And even when I tell myself, okay, this is not real, I still play differently. I'd avoid forests at night, I'd stay closer to my house, and I 100% slept through nighttime every single time. And that's the part that sticks with me. Not that I truly believed in him, but like he changed the way I played. And that's such a weird amount of power for something that never even existed. Entity 303 is very interesting because he represents a shift in how Minecraft myths worked. Herobrine was about presence, while Entity 303 was about damage. The idea behind Entity 303 was that he wasn't some ghost or legend, but an actual person, a disgruntled Mojang employee who still had access to the game's code and was using it to mess with players. For example, like corrupting worlds or deleting saves or spawning things in that shouldn't be spawned in. But anyways, that's why it hit harder than a lot of people give it credit for, because Minecraft worlds weren't disposable back then. You didn't really just start a new one for fun, or at least I didn't. I would have like one world, maybe two, and I would pour everything I had into it. So the idea that someone could just reach into your files and erase all of that was terrifying, especially for younger players who didn't really understand how computers worked. If someone on YouTube said it could happen, that was honestly enough. A lot of the videos about Entity 303 were very obviously fake looking back now, but at the time they felt kinda believable. The world's breaking and the weird signs appearing or sudden crashes, even if you didn't fully believe in it, it kind of planted a seed of doubt. And unlike Herobrine, Entity 303 didn't feel like something you could avoid by being careful. You couldn't prepare for him. If he was real and he targeted you, that was it. Like your world's gone. And I think that's why Entity 303 scared people more in a loud way. It wasn't about being watched, but it was about losing something you cared about, and that's a much more real fear. With Entity 303, I think what really got people wasn't even the story itself, but actually the timing. This was around when people were starting to understand that games could get hacked, and that files could be corrupted, or your saves could disappear. And if you were a kid, that stuff felt way more mysterious than it actually is. Like if your world crashed, it wouldn't feel like a bug, but more like something that went specifically wrong with you. Like you did something you weren't supposed to do, and the crash is like a direct result from that. And I remember how stressful it felt to even close Minecraft sometimes, because there was always a tiny fear of like, what if my world doesn't load again? And myths like Entity 303 fed directly into that fear. And honestly, even if you didn't believe it, you still backed up your world, or at least thought about it, or felt relieved when it loaded properly and worked. And I mean, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. Even now, when my hardcore world takes a little bit longer than usual to start up, I kind of get a little scared still. I'm not gonna lie. But it is weird how a fake story can make you change your behavior, and that's when you know it actually mattered. The far lands are where things get really interesting, because this actually wasn't a myth. This is completely real, as most people know, and that made it a lot more scary. When players first started reaching the far lands, there wasn't any explanation or messages. It was just the world slowly breaking apart the further you went. Terrain would stretch into crazy shapes, and blocks would behave strangely, and the game was honestly just struggling to keep itself together. And when you don't know why something is happening, it doesn't feel like a bug, but it feels just like something that's wrong. And people treated the Farlands like the edge of the world, like a forbidden place you weren't meant to see. Players would prepare for journeys that took hours or days or sometimes weeks just to reach it. And when they finally got there, they didn't rush around or do anything really. They would kind of just look around and listen, because there was this unspoken feeling that you had gone somewhere important, somewhere beyond the normal rules of the game. And even though it was, in all honesty, just math breaking down, it didn't feel that way when you were standing there. It felt like you had reached the end of Minecraft. The Farlands are one of those things where I think people romanticize them now, but back then they felt like wrong. Not scary like a monster, but just kind of unsettling. Definitely like you weren't supposed to be there. I remember watching videos of people reaching them, and nobody ever talked much in those. They would kind of just like stand around and like look at the terrain, like they were trying to understand it or something. And I think that's because it felt like Minecraft stopped being perfect almost. Like the illusion dropped and you saw the machinery underneath. And when you're used to a game feeling infinite, seeing it break is very uncomfortable. It's like realizing the skybox isn't real. The reason we still talk about these myths isn't because they were real, but it's because of how they made us feel when we were first experiencing Minecraft. Back when everything was very unexplained and quiet and unsettling. Now, Minecraft is louder, brighter, more detailed, and that's not a bad thing, but it does mean that the mystery is gone. Everything has a wiki page and an explanation now. But Minecraft didn't lose its magic, we just kind of learned how it worked. Also, let me know if there's any other myths that I missed that you guys were hoping to see in this video. Maybe if I get enough comments on a certain myth, I'll make another video on them. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And also comment your favorite myth down below. I need to see. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.